So welcome to Sustain CX podcast with Aaron from the Property Cloud. I wanted to get Aaron on for some time, purely based on his journey around why he left the traditional high street estate agency model, how it affected his mental health, why he actually set up his own business, his journey of technology, his journeys of partnering agents, and expanding his business in a digital way before anyone was really doing it out there. So I really hope you enjoy this episode. So Aaron, thanks for coming in today and welcome to the podcast.
Yep.
I wanted to get you on today and just to talk about ultimately, having gone through a few coaching sessions with you, your previous journey was around how you set up, why you got into your own model, and how you've almost expanded your model digitally without needing multiple offices like most traditional estate agents. So I wanted to almost share your story out there so that if anyone else is out there who might be in a traditional one branch agency or has that one branch office set up and wants to go about it in a different way than the traditional way of, I'm going to get 10 offices and have the expense of that.
Yeah.
So firstly, like, go back in time when you first set up. What was the transition and why did you go right, I'm going to go on my own?
Well, to be honest, so when I first started, so going back way back when, so back in 2006 when I first got into agency, I mean, I always wanted to have my own business anyway. That's always been a goal and an ambition of mine. Before I'm 30, I always wanted to start my own business. And so I worked for a few independents, went to Halifax. I was there for a couple of years and then they got bought out by LSL. And I didn't like it there anymore because things kind of changed. So then I moved on, got headhunted to a particular branch in Sidcup. They're not there anymore now. And it just drove me down, to be honest with you. They drove me into the ground. I was working long hours and it just got to a point where I said to my wife that there's a lot more to it than that, but I don't know how much I should really share. But yeah, it got to a point where I said to my wife, look, if I'm going to be working all the hours under the sun, you know, I'm getting home and my daughter's going to bed, you know, I'm waking up in the morning and she's still asleep and I just thought, this just don't work for me anymore.
How old was your daughter at the time?
She was 2, I think she was.
First child as well?
First child, yeah, and we were pregnant. I say we were. Wife was pregnant with with the second one, and we just bought a house as well. Just bought our second house, so it's probably the wrong time to do it. But you know what? Looking back, I'm pleased I did. Best decision I ever made.
So you came into the industry when it was a good times, going into the crashing times.
To the hard times,
similar sort of pathway to me, which is great. And I get when you work in an environment that gets changed, you think actually like this company isn't sort of the right place for me. And obviously being a new dad myself, 100% get probably where you started to analyse that. What time am I spending every single day, like in a working environment and not being in the family environment?
Yeah,
so,
it was affecting my mental health, to be fair, it really was. You know, I was getting anxious, I was having panic attacks and stuff like that. It was really, really affecting me, getting me down quite a bit. I mean, looking back at it now, I'm not ashamed to share it. And I think, you know, men, you know, should talk about their mental health anyway. I'm quite a big fan, advocate of that, but as I know you are. But at the time, it was, you know, looking back, I didn't realise at the time, but I think I was probably suffering with depression and it just got a bit too much, but something had to give. And it was either I continue as I was and it just gets worse, or I'll make a significant change in our life. And, you know, the hard thing was at the time, as I say, we had a baby on the way, we had a second baby on the way, we had just bought a new house, our mortgage had increased dramatically. And so it was a tough decision, but it was one that was necessary. So
that seems to be like appreciate you sharing that part, but like even when people are in a position of like, I'm doing really well, I'm mentally strong, and then there's that edge of I actually want to do this on my own. That's even a stressful period in itself to go, I'm actually going to go and do this myself and be accountable for that. So like, how did that take place? Like, what was the point where you just said, like, was there a particular day you just came home and thought, like Matt Giggs came on a few weeks ago and he shared his story, and he had that similar sort of process of being like, I once came home one day and I sat down with my wife and thought, right, no, like this is a line I'm going to draw, and I'm going to start moving into that new me. So like, what was the pinnacle moment that you then decided to go, I'm going to set up the Property Cloud?
Honest?
Yeah.
It was when my boss threw a chair across the office at me.
Wow.
That was what did it. And I'd had enough. By that point, I was, almost broken. So, and I'd already started sort of thinking, I need to make a change. I need to do something different. But I had a bit of an argument with the owner of the business for various reasons. But he just weren't a nice man to work for. So it just kind of started to go down. The relationship started to go downhill. It was that. It was just that kind of, for me, was like, I can't work here anymore. Has to change. And I didn't want to go and work for someone else. It just got to that point in my life where I thought, look, if I'm going to ever work for myself and, run a business and start my own business, now's got to be the time. It's just got to happen. I mean, to be honest, we didn't really have the money to start a business. Yeah. But I've got great family around me and great support networks, and that kind of gave me the foundations to build. Yeah, and that's kind of where it went.
So like, gave you notice in, I assume?
No, I was about to, and then you made me redundant.
Okay,
Even better.
So you literally were made redundant, had a chair for you, made redundant, and then what was that process where you thought, because you've not set up in a traditional way, which actually is not like, it might be unusual to some, but to us, like with the digital age that we've seen going through, it's the more sort of streamlined way of doing it, and people, I think it's even harder to try and come out there. So what made you go down that route of like, tell just the listeners out there for like Property Cloud, like how was the Property Cloud set up in the initial stages? Like,
so when I very first opened, for the first 3 months, we opened up almost like a Purple Bricks, or I think you had Hatched at the time. I think we was that kind of setup. So we had a bronze, a silver, and a gold package. No more than £1,000, fee up front and whatnot. And I think we got. I was door knocking. I was speaking to old clients. I still had contacts in my phone, so I was, just trying to network as much as possible, trying to get business. But I learned very, very quickly that it just weren't working. It weren't enough for us. We needed to almost adopt the new technological ways, but also still have that personable touch. And that's kind of, after 3 months, I changed our business model completely, because it just wasn't how I see it going. And I thought if we carried on trying to push it the way we was going, I would have ended up another casualty as a lot of the online-only agencies. So we kind of changed from that. But I've always worked from home, so it's always been that. I think I did at the early stages, there was that what's the word? Bit of a blockage, if you like. I can't think of the words, but it was difficult trying to gain trust from clients, basically.
Overcome objections.
Exactly. So overcome the objections because a lot of agents were sort of suggesting, you don't want to go with Property Cloud. Well, exactly that. Exactly that. So so that made it more difficult for us. But
and what year was this?
2014.
Yeah, so you're coming up to almost 10 years, and it just even for us having like COVID last few years, like the normality of working from home is there. So
it's well before the norm.
Well before like the norm. So like, how did you then go and see clients and meet clients? And
it's all about them. I made everything about them. So they didn't need to come to us. I mean, don't get me wrong, once or twice, my registered address is my home address. So once or twice I did get people knocking on our door asking to view a property. Is this the Property Cloud? Yeah, this is us. But otherwise we would always tell the client, look, the reason we're set up this way is for your convenience. I'll come to you. You're in the comfort of your own home. We can have a cup of tea, we can sit down, we can go through it. You don't need to come to us and try and find parking and, whatever else. It makes it a lot more convenient and comfortable for the client. And, working from that and really the whole customer experience, that was a real big focus of mine, and making sure that they had the best experience they could ever have, or that they've ever had working with an estate agent. And it just went from there and escalated really.
And where did that sort of knowledge come from? Because that's still like 2014. That's the reason why I really wanted to get you on, because when we had that conversation, I was thinking like, people are doing this now in the last few years, has been a buzz, but like you were doing this 10 years ago. So like, where did you learn that, or where did you think about that? Actually, I'm going to do it. So like, you know, it's not just it's going to be all about the client. And I know I haven't got an office, but I'm going to do it this way, and I'm going to go and see them, and I'm going to make sure it's all about their experience. Like, where did that come from? Like,
I guess from my early days, leaving school to a degree. You know, when I left school, I went to work for my dad straight away. So, you know, he wouldn't let me enjoy any summer break or anything. Literally left school, he's like, "You're coming to work the next day, come and earn some money and whatnot." So it kind of, I got that from my dad. And when I went to work for him, he had a carpet business, so he wasn't a estate agency. But when I went to work for him, his business was family business. You know, look after the customer, the business will take care of itself kind of mentality. So it kind of come from that to a degree. And then obviously, as I did transition into a state agency when I was 18, it was just picking things up as we went along, really. And I've always been very keen to learn and eager to do better. I'm very competitive in everything I do, to the point where I don't let my kids win ball games. That's how competitive I am. But it's so for me, I've always wanted to just be the best version of myself that I can, really. And I think it's just come from transition experience from company to company, picking little bits up here and there, and just lots of research.
And like, so 2014, like what technology was used in that time to just like acquire business, manage business?
Honestly,
they're gone.
I was leaflet dropping. I was doing everything old estate agents. Everything I was taught by the old agents, you know. So I was door knocking. I was leaflet dropping. God, I remember one day I literally was out all day, and it was really hot as well, and it just killed me. But I was doing that. I was trying to connect with old clients I still had numbers for and things like that. I had my mobile phone, I had my laptop, and I had my dining table, and that was about it. To be fair, that was my office equipment.
So it's quite interesting, because in that period of time, like, was you doing any Facebook ads, any Google ads?
I wasn't doing ads. I was Facebooking.
Yeah.
At that time, I didn't really use Facebook on a personal level. I mean, we still really don't use it on a personal level. I only really use it for work. It's all sharing, work stuff, you know. But then, so I was very new to Facebook, really. I never really used it. But yeah, again, it's just, I was putting stuff on there, but I didn't really know what I was doing, to be honest with you. Again, it's just learning on the job, researching, watching what other people are doing, learning off other companies, not just in a estate agency, you know, in other industries and stuff as well. So just trying to learn as much as I could along the way.
Was there any sort of influencing companies at the time you remember? You like, because it's quite interesting. Like Mark talks about this a lot. Like, you know, when we come to Estate 6 events, we've always talked about, a lot of sections have always been around like looking at outside other industries. So was there any company out there you thought, that's actually quite a good idea around customer experience, or was there anything that you felt was? Oh
mate, honestly, I can't really remember back then and focusing on certain companies, but I do know. So when it got to about 2016, 2017 roughly, I was more active on social media. I was following a lot more businesses, and I did come across Perry Power, and I was looking at a lot of what he was doing, and I did join his course that he had, which actually was, you know, credit to him. It was a great course, and I don't look back on it anymore, but I did, you know, I used to look back on it quite often just for ideas and stuff, really. But yeah, his kind of setup and everything was quite aspiring, really, at that stage. I think because it got to a point where I've never employed a coach, like a business coach or a mentor or anything like that. To a degree, I wish I had have done, and obviously speaking to you since I've been working with Lifecycle has been brilliant, but I never had that back then. So, and I never really had anyone to bounce off, because I haven't got any business partners as such. So it was, a lot of it was self-learning and self-taught, and again, just researching, looking at what others are doing and trying to connect with people where I could. So that's kind of
everyone, I think, sometimes needs like an accountability partner.
Definitely, yeah.
So just like you said, like otherwise it comes up being your wife or your partner at home, and like sometimes I have to. My partner Kel should just like shut up, because like I've had enough of it today. So
I've had that a few times.
Yeah, so From 2017 onwards, like, when did the partner model come into play with you, and like your expansion with having a bit more of a team around you?
So I hired my first staff in 2016, and I actually used to work with Amy way back in like 2010, 2011, something like that, at another company. But she's really good, she's very motivated, she's great with people, and she's very sort of similar, works very similarly to me, and that's what I wanted. So I approached her and just said, look, I'm looking for someone. Kind of went from there. She isn't a partner, mind you, so I'll explain a bit more about that if you want in a minute. But and then since then we've kind of got someone new on board every year. The two partners that I've got now, they've been with me for the last sort of 2.5 years. Jordan been with me since just before last summer roughly. But I did try and do the partner program back in about 2018, I think it was. But I didn't have I knew it was what I wanted to do, but I don't think I had the know-how on how to do it. So it was almost a trial and error for me, you know. I got 2 people on board. One didn't work out for whatever reason. And the other one, she transitioned from partner to actually becoming like self-employed agent to being a full-time member of staff, and you know, being a negotiator, if you like, because that just suited her lifestyle a bit better. And she was very good on the phones and whatever else. But yeah, I think that I didn't have the technology in place then to expand it or make it work as well as I thought it would do. But now coming into sort of post-COVID and sort of the world that we're in now, having Life Cycle on board, that's been sort of a game changer for me, really. It's been brilliant, because everything that I used to have, it was bloody difficult to monitor, you know, all the email, the nurturing systems, you know, the text messaging systems, and everything else is all in different places. And now
getting your
the
guys to log
newsletters,
in, like, especially when you take staff on.
Yeah.
I remember being like, you got to log in for that, and they like forget to log into that one. You're like, why are you not doing this one? So
yeah,
I remember multiple logins, hence why I probably do what I do today.
Yeah.
Going back, if it's okay, go back to that.
Yeah, go on.
That period when you started to take your first person on, like, I know you obviously knew her in the past, and obviously you've had people on, but how has that onboarding process been in not having an office? Like, can you give any insights into that, if like people are looking to try and do that? Like, like, how have you managed that with if it just being like an absolute shit show where you go, come work for me, and then like this was even before COVID, like, and how did you like go, come work for me, but you've got to work from home?
Yeah.
And I don't really know what you're going to do because I'm not in the office environment, because you've been in those environments. Like, I need to see someone doing something to be able to control the situation. But if they're not, I can't see them, like, and they're at home, like, how do I know they're doing something? Even if you think about COVID, everyone worked from home, everyone was fine. As soon as everything opened up, it was like, no, dragging you back into the office. I need to make sure you've actually been doing something for us.
I used to be like that. I used to find it very difficult to let go.
Yeah.
Now I delegate all the time.
What changed?
My mindset.
Yeah.
The need I needed to let go.
Yeah.
Because again, it comes back to you get burnout. You know, as a business owner, and I'm sure there's plenty of business owners out there that can sort of resonate with that. But I think it's you get burnout. You work too much. You try and do too much over a long period of time, and your jar just becomes too full, and then something has to give. So, and ultimately, you know, if I do have burnout and I do work, you know, constantly, the people who are closest to me, my family, my kids, they're going to lose out, because then I'm not going to want to ever do anything, you know, with them. And that work-life balance then becomes work and life. And actually, I want it to be quite a nice balance.
Since I've met you, I've noticed that you want to make sure you maintain a balance. I've seen that a lot with you.
It's really important to me now.
I think, and it's nice to see where you've come from to where you are.
Yeah, appreciate that, mate.
So, like, going back to the onboarding of the team, like, how do you do that technology-wise? Like, I know obviously you now use Life Cycle, but like before that, like, when someone had a staff member join you, like, have you got any particular processes in place for when they do join you? Like, you've got to do the X, Y, and Z, or?
Yeah, so
how do you operate communication-wise amongst them, or?
Yeah, so we had, so we still use internal WhatsApp groups for messaging and communication throughout the day, because we all obviously work at our own homes. I have had an office built in the back garden and stuff now, which sometimes we use it as a base and they can come and work.
Watching that build process, wasn't I?
Yeah. Yeah, so it does have, I suppose, for the onboarding from where I was back in 2018 to where I am now is different, because I feel like now we've got life cycle, now we've got the technologies in place to help us to maintain that and deal with that quite efficiently. Whereas back then it was a lot more difficult, because I'd have to invite them over to my house, or I'd have to go to their house and I'd sit with them for a day or 2 or 3 days. We'd go through setting up Facebook, setting up a business, setting up the Google pages and the business pages and stuff like that. So it would be very long-winded. It'd take me out of the office for a really lengthy period of time, whereas now it's just a lot more systemized. I still spend time with them, and I still go through bits and pieces, make sure, but it's all now, right, here's what you need to do. Once you've done this and done that, then we'll go through it together, make sure it's all as it should be. Get them set up on life cycle is easy, it's good. And I'm working with Clint at the minute as well for Google ads and stuff, which seems to be working quite well.
So the second partner model version 2, when did that happen? You said like 2018. You said you trialled it. One became a full-time member.
Yeah,
the other person just without going too much detail, like what did you learn from that process to then make version 2? You think that didn't go well, so what do I need to change?
And I know exactly what it was. So version 1 was I offered a guarantee for income-wise. So I offered a guarantee over a 6-month period.
Wow.
So it was almost like a salary to fall back on, if you like. It wasn't much, but it was still a guarantee. And so I was subsidising the income, if you like. So I think the motivation wasn't there as much. But also, look, I was a bit naive to the fact that I got a lot of my business from recommendations. And as a business, we still do. We still get a lot of business. About 78% of our business comes from word of mouth and recommendations. So still quite high. But I think back then I was getting that business. And then I was almost expecting that individual to come in and use their contacts and their know-how to go out and get that business. Yeah. And I feel, just they perhaps it just weren't the right person, combined with the wrong model for their personality. That's got to come into it a little bit as well. I can't take all the blame, but I think
so. Version 2.
Version 2 is now just, it's a bit, it's there's no guarantee. I think you have to be a lot more motivated as an individual, and we're looking out for that. The 2 people that I've got on board recently actually approached me, and they've come. And one of them I've known for years anyway, not on a personal level, but from a work level. Just speaking to him through progressing and calling up for comparables, and you get chatting, and you get
the ones that actually like usually in a town that you think actually.
Nice guys. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they're helpful. You pat, scratch my back, scratch yours, kind of thing. And so he was a nice guy. And then I heard that he was looking to sort of go out on his own, and got recommended he got recommended to speak to me, and we did. We connected, we met up, and kind of went from there really. And then the first one was again a recommendation from someone that I used to work with who knew him, and he said, "Well, Aaron's looking for someone. This is what he's looking to do. Give him a shout." So that's kind of how they come about. And
just the learnings from that, like, what's your plans for maybe the next few years? Like, is that something that you're looking to expand into? Because obviously, like, you've been with us, not just even a year yet.
No, nearly a year. Year in June, I think.
Yeah, nearly. Soon. So, like, what's your plans using likes of Clint and having technology where you can partner people in different areas and set up those journeys, etc. Like, have you got any sort of strategies you're looking to gain without giving too much away? What you're looking to do?
Yeah, I just think that onboarding process is going to be slightly more enhanced, if you want to call it that.
Yep.
You know, before I was using, am I right to name drop other companies? So I was using Alto before, and don't get me wrong, Alto's all right. You know, I still use it for the letting side, for the management side, but it's nowhere near what I'm using now. Nowhere near the as powerful as what I'm using.
I mean, I used to use Alto before, like
so you can
it's crazy because you think like from a partner side to it, and you know what, obviously where we work together, like I look at it going from an onboarding perspective, like those journeys that we've set up, and for listeners out there, like we've got stuff in place for instant valuations and buyer registrations, all sorts of stuff.
That's
like
it, yeah.
As soon as like a partner comes on board and you go, right, here's your map, like automatically this stuff is going to be going out for you
there as well,
clients,
potentially.
like that person was active 2 hours ago, whatever it might be. We do monthly newsletters that goes out to your database and they ignite, and there's a bit on your dashboard. Like it's a whole different thing compared to someone going,
there's a load of data,
here's Alto,
call everyone,
I've got 10,000 archive people in there, just call people. Like because going back to like your traditional ways of why you probably left that, people must be thinking like, I think it's crazy that you'd probably have a partner going into a place like that, or that type of model, and then thinking like, why have I just left a paid job to just do exactly the same thing and currently not get paid with no direction? So like, what's your plans for, say, in the future utilising that sort of technology? Have you got anything in mind that you're like ideally like to get to? Like, is a particular number of partners or areas? Or?
My future goal is to try and take a step back from the day-to-day. At the moment, I'm still out day-to-day. I'm still valuing. I'm still, meeting clients and stuff. I love that part of my job, mind you. So it's not something that I really want to let go of that quickly. But eventually, I would like to get to about 10 partners. Look, if naturally it grows and it gets a bit bigger, then great. It's a win. But that's kind of where I'd like to see ourselves. I can then take a step back a little bit and just focus on working on the business as opposed to working in the business. That's my long-term goal. I want to spend more time with my kids before they get old enough that they don't want to spend time with me anymore. So that's important. But that's where I'd like to get to. And I think to get there, utilising technology, to be honest, I'm not one to sit back and just think, oh, that's working for me. I'll stick with that for the next 2 years, 5 years or whatever. If new things come out, I will always investigate it and I'll look at it. And if it works for us, great. If it doesn't, then we'll move on. So I'm not one to sit back technology-wise. AI, for instance, been using ChatGPT quite often. I know Lifecycle are now looking at bringing something on board similar, which I haven't had the joy to test yet, but I'm going to do that soon. I've applied for it, but but I use that a lot. I use that for my descriptions. I use it for my bullet points now, and obviously we edit it a little bit, but honestly, the amount of time that it saves, that then allows me then to maybe get a few more phone calls in and speak to clients that are showing interest in certain blogs or whatnot that we've written about selling this summer and whatever, just creating more opportunities and using that time more efficiently. Yeah,
because the common perception out there is like, I need to call X amount of people and then I'm going to get some business. And trying to come away from that going, I'm going to use technology to blast it out to a load of people, and then there's 30 people that have read that, I want to call them instead. I think sometimes obviously people are fearful because it's almost like technology is going to replace that element to it, but it's almost like empowering through it, because then you could spend all the other time just actually having good conversations, like having 30 conversations with people that would be more interested and you can see what they've read. You could spend half an hour having a conversation with each one of them, of course, a week, rather than going, I need to make
2 minutes because I need to get my target.
I need to get me a target. So it's a nice blend on that one. So what's made you like explore like AI now? Like, was there anything that you thought, because again,
me.
Like people might go, I like writing my own content and I like writing my own descriptions. I'm the best in the world and like no computer can tell me what otherwise. And obviously you've got content writers out there who are trading it off at the moment, saying this is better than etc. So like, what made you step into that thinking, do you know what, like there's always going to be some trade-off in that. Like, was there any there any bit that you've gone from that? You know, that element of you said you were like, was a bit of a control. I like to know everything.
Yeah.
Surely they're
to this.
Yeah, to that.
Yeah,
like,
yeah. It's like one end of the spectrum and the other.
Yeah. So.
No, I think for me it's an easy transition because I like technology anyway. Stuff like this intrigues me, you know, and I feel that it's there to be utilised to benefit us, really. You know, look, you can look at it and say, look, it's going to replace jobs in the future. Maybe it will.
Yeah.
Will it replace our industry? You know, jobs in our industry? I'm not convinced that it will necessarily. Maybe some parts of it, you know, the admin parts, possibly, who knows? But
if you think about it, like if we look back 10 years ago,
yeah.
A member of staff that you'd be employing to maybe do a job of answering the phone calls and booking in stuff, like you might lose that person because there's automations in place to do that. But then it saves the efficiencies of members of staff being able to take the information and go, oh, you've told me X, Y, and Z. I haven't needed to get that in a document form. Yeah. And then you've got, like I've seen you do videos and I've seen you do that sort of side to it. Like 10 years ago, you wouldn't have thought, I'm going to get a videographer in. No. And I'm going to pay out for that part to it. So I think with technology, the fear is everyone looks at what gets removed, but no, ultimately with the new version, there's always
what you're gaining as well.
What you're gaining in different formats. And like we had guys on previously before and they were saying that by alleviating that admin process of just doing that side to it, we've now empowered our teams to actually have better calls and better conversations and actually do stuff that's enjoyable in our work life rather than like, you know,
mundane.
And also and trying to get away from that guilt of going, I'm going to spend an hour videographing a house to make it look the best, rather than like the old days of going, need you around there, I need to get you 7 photos for the floor, pictures, chuck it on Rightmove, and then we're just going to try and sell it.
Yeah.
So it's a great point in regards to like the trade-off and going.
Yeah, I think, you know, it's there to be used. It's there to benefit. You know, in our industry anyway, it's there to benefit us. Why not utilise it? Why not use it to our advantage? And as I say, free you up a little bit more. And even if you don't use that time necessarily, as I said earlier, you know, sometimes you do get burnout. So even if it means that you can finish a little bit earlier on a Friday and take your kids out bowling or something and just have a bit of family time, it's there to be utilised. And I think it'd be silly not to, personally. And if you know, if you want that control and you want to be able to write it in your own words, then that's fine. That's your prerogative.
Just the trade-off of the time to do that. Yeah, exactly. Against other stuff in your life, isn't it?
Pros and cons, you know, and it's what you want out of life. But I know where I want to be.
So to wrap it up, give us like what would you say was your 3 learnings in your journey of going into almost 10 years of being in the property cloud, like for people out there?
That's a difficult one.
Be honest, as honest as you want.
Yeah, I think more recently, maybe over the last couple of years, it's working with the right people, you know, the right clientele. Don't be afraid to say no, or you know, get rid of clients if you don't want to work with them, if you don't feel that they're the right fit for you. That's something that I've probably, don't get me wrong, look, and I know there's people going to be watching this probably thinking, that's crazy, I wouldn't turn down £5 if I could, you know, if I could take it. But for me, back in 2014, God, I would have taken £5 if, you know, if it was offered to me. But
I'd have sold your garage.
Yeah, exactly, But I think now it's more, as I say, it's more important to work with the right people who value me as a person, can see that I'm bringing value to the table for them. That's really important. That type of client ultimately is going to become a fan because they value you. They're grateful for everything you do for them. They can see how much effort you put into it, assuming you do, and they're more likely to talk about you down the pub or to friends and family at Christmas dinner, or you know, that kind of thing, which you wouldn't get otherwise. So, and
you can only do it if you are a good agent.
If you are a good agent, you've got to be a good agent.
Right, then it'll be the other end.
It'll be the other way.
Exactly. So, like number 2.
I think don't be afraid to explore new technologies. Really, I think you'd be silly to just say, no, this works for me, and that's what I'm going to do forever.
It's always been this way since.
I've always done it this way, and it's never let me down once. But things change so quick in this industry. You know, you look at the last 3 years, the last 1 year. You know, you look at how much is changing as each year moves forward, and you know, I just think you can't rest on your laurels. You've got to constantly be moving forward.
Last one.
Difficult one. I don't know. Make time for yourself. You know, I think make time for yourself. Make time for your family. If you don't have a family, you know, if you don't have kids or anything like that, then make time for yourself. And I think that again, I've let myself down in that over the years because I've not made time for myself as much as I should have done. I know my wife probably be agreeing with me right now, but I think make time for yourself, your family, your friends. Don't just work constantly chasing a pound note necessarily. I just don't think it's the right thing. You know, obviously, everyone's going to have their own what they want out of life, but you've got to have balance. I think that's really important. You know.
Good 3 points, though, mate.
Yeah, I think it's important. So.
Well, I appreciate you coming on.
Pleasure. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this Estate Agency X podcast. Can you make sure that you're actually subscribed to this podcast channel if you liked the content? It helps us massively to get better guests, and it just helps us generally. So you might think you're subscribed, but just have a double check, whatever your podcast platform of preference is, that you're actually subscribed, and then that way we can continue to grow the channel and get better and better guests for you.